Hello, my name is Sky Matsuhashi with Smart Poker Study. Welcome to the 11th video in the 5-minute poker coaching series. In this one, I help wicked MFer plug the leak of double barreling and then calling the river bet. Let's roll. Alright, here's Wicked MFer's database of 16,000 hands. He plays 5NL and 10NL6 max, and he said in his email to me that the 5NL games are more indicative of his current play style. I think he started off at 10NL, realized that maybe he needed to work on his game, and then dropped to 5NL. So what I'll do real quick, I'll show you how to do this. All stakes, you're just going to go to 5NL6 max, just select the stake that you want to isolate out of all the hands. So instead of the 16, now we have 6,000 hands with a positive currency one and then a good win rate. That's great. It is a small sample size, so you can't really determine where all of your leaks are in a sample size like this, but you can at least get started, right? So here's what I found as I was going through his hands. His opportunity is I lose money when I double barrel cbet and then call the river bet. Here's the thing, players call two streets, then they bet on the river so that they don't miss out on value. And this is either, they hit like a set on the flop and they just called flop and turn and then finally bet the river, or they actually hit a draw on the river. They don't want to miss value because they were drawing to that straight, to that flush, so they bet, and then you end up calling and losing. So what I did was I ran a filter for double barrel cbet and then called on the river. You see, it's just a turn continuation bet and any river call. Out of 5 hands, he lost $21 right here. These are all 5 NL, so it's 4 buy-ins that he lost, right? Out of the 5 hands, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 are all losing hands, right? He's losing every time he double barrels and then calls that river bet. That's indicative that he's making mistakes here. But it's also indicative that his opponents are calling those turn double barrel cbets and then firing the river when they have a really good hand. So I saw this at 5NL. I thought, let's take a look at just all the hands in general. Let's see what happens with this same filter. 13 hands, negative $42, negative 4,800 big blinds per 100 hands. So out of the 13 hands, he won 1, 2, he won only 2 hands, right? That means his opponents had a better hand when they called on the turn, or called flop and turn, and then fired on the river 11 out of 13 times. That's pretty interesting. I decided to flip the script while we look at Wicked MFer's hands here. Now, we're looking at times when he double barreled and then called on the river. What if he was the one actually calling the continuation bet on the turn? And then, what if he is the one who bet on the river? Called the turn, bet on the river. He's up money in this instance. He lost 1, 2, 3 hands. 3 out of 15 he lost. That means he won 12 out of 15. So this is a really good indicator that when people call 2 streets, flop and turn cbets, and then bet the river, they have the goods. They're trying to get value out of you. Let's look at a couple hands here. Open raise, 3-bet, love it, and you get a call. Okay, queen 8-10 flop, cbet, call. King, oh, you got a set. Things are looking really good. 3 to the flush, though. 3 to the straight as well. Bet, and then a call. Now look at his stack. 11-8, 11-47, and $5 behind right here. And then look at that river. Any flush, any spade has a flush, jack has a straight. But what is this opponent? Once you check and show a little bit of weakness, what is he actually going to fire here? Is he firing just ace, king, 2 pair? Or is he just going to check behind and hope those kinds of hands win? That's what he's going to do if he has a weaker hand. If he has any kind of spade, he could be firing here. And it's probably the jack of spades for a royal flush. And then it ends up being that right there. Pretty obvious, and this is such a scary board. I'm often checking and then folding on that scary board versus that bet. And the reason why is because I understand now that calling the turn cbet and then firing the river means you have a strong hand. Your opponent always beats top pair, top kicker when that happens. Almost always. You raise, call, second pair, bet, and then a call. You wanted him to fold, whatever. Now you got the gut shot. Not too bad. Bet again, and then he calls. That's a bummer. It failed. Now, look at that river. The 9 of hearts hit. All you have is a third pair hand, 3 hearts to the board, 4 to the straight to the board. All it takes is 110 or 2 hearts to make a flush. And then he bets 137, and it's actually all in at this point, right? He didn't have any money left. He's a super loose passive player at 87-0. He's only betting in this instance with a flush or a straight, guaranteed. You decide to call with your third pair, and then he has the 10 for the straight. Actually, the ace-10 for the nut straight right there. So that's indicative. Those two hands just tell you when people call the flop in the turn c-bet and then bet the river, they've got something that beats you for sure. So you want to filter for all those things that we just saw. When you filter for call, turn c-bet, and then bet the river, ask yourself, are you winning here? Because this may confirm that the turn c-bet call and the river bet equals a strong hand. Your opponents are doing it because you lost 11 out of 13 hands, and then you're doing it because you won 13 out of 15 hands, right? Or whatever that percentage was. Here's your sticky note, Wicked MFer. When facing a river bet, answer the question, what does my opponent do this with? And you can actually ask this question of yourself anytime you face a bet, on any street, actually. Here's your purposeful play. Over the next 5 sessions, ask yourself this question with every post-flop bet you face. What does my opponent do this with? This is going to get you thinking about your opponent's range and what hand strengths they make their plays with. Your goal is to put your opponent on a range with every bet they make and respond accordingly. If they have a lot of bluffs, re-bluff them or call them with a bluff catcher. If they only bet for value, fold worse or raise better. You want to use the board and their pre-flop range to determine their likely hand strength. And of course, tag any confusing, difficult, interesting hands with maybe with a face bet tag for your post-session reviews. And then when it comes to your reviews, study those tagged hands, do full hand reading exercises to confirm your reads. And if you want to see hand reading in action, watch video number 9 in this series. I'll put a link right here to it. The video was called What's a 5x River Raise Mean? And of course, take notes on mistakes that you make so that you don't repeat them. And lastly, please subscribe to the channel below and ding that bell to receive all notifications of future YouTube videos. Well, thank you very much for watching, and an extra big thanks to Wicked MFer for opening up their database to us. I hope you use what I showed you today to improve your game. Click either one of these videos to watch more in the series, and if you want me to be your coach, visit smartpokerstudy.com/coaching.